Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. Welcome to the Let's Talk Fabulous with Tamara Show. My name is Tamara Hunter, and I am your host. This is the show where we explore our fabulous lives. Today, we're diving deep in the miracle of spring, in the miracle of renewal, and we are going to be talking with subject matter experts that understand overcoming and renewal in life. They are going to be sharing about a period in their life where they overcame addiction. And they're going to also be sharing with you how it is that they did it. And it's time. Let's talk. Today, we have some people that are near and dear to my heart, each and every one of them. I have heard their stories. I have featured every single one of them on the Service Hero Show. And so if you do want to dive deeper into their story, there is a show for you to be able to do so. So what we're going to be doing today is we're going to be exploring the specifics of overcoming addiction. And what I'd like to do right now is I'd like to go around the room, if you will, and introduce yourselves. Where are you today? And tell us just in a couple of sentences, what was your addiction, or if you will, item of choice? Dr. Loren Harris.
Oh, you probably shouldn't have started with me because I don't have the traditional answer. I'll put it out there this way and then come back later.
Okay.
As far as the drug that I used consistently for 14 years, it was crack cocaine.
Okay. And where are you?
I didn't say addiction, but the drug that I used.
Thank you for that. And I want you guys to, because I know the power of words, Loren, and I am really wanting us to focus on that. And truth be told, this is a subject that I am taking notes to. And so thank you for that. Where are you today?
In Chicago.
In Chicago. Okay, Mandi.
I'm going to go ahead and play on those words also with the whole once an addict, always an addict mentality. I do not subscribe to that station. I did meth for 18 years. It did me. And I am a dope survivor now.
Awesome. I love it. I love it. Caroline.
I am from Toronto, Canada, and my addiction either sex, because I was looking for love in all the wrong places.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you. Mistie.
Hi, I'm from Southeast Texas. I battled with crack cocaine for 10 years. 15 years clean, but I am still struggling today with eating. I have, can't keep the food out of my mouth, and that in itself is an addiction, and it's real.
Okay, thank you. Jill.
Hi, I'm Jill Reynolds, and I'm coming from Branson, Missouri, and I like to use the word dis-ease. And I would say the battle that I was delivered from was crack cocaine and alcoholism. However, the true disease is codependency, when we allow people, places, or things, and things are drugs, alcohol, sex, gambling, to become more important than ourselves. We lose our identity.
Thank you. Thank you. What I'm going to do is throughout the show, I'm going to be sharing a few video clips that were submitted by our panel. And I'm going to set off with one, and then we're going to go into discussion, and then we're going to share some others. Here we go.
Oh, hey. Hey, good morning. I didn't see you sitting over there. What's that, honey? You feeling overwhelmed and alone? Oh, well, thank goodness that you came here this morning. I don't ever want you to feel like there's nobody out there for you, that you're alone. You are never alone. I completely understand what you're going through. 18 years of meth addiction, I always felt like everybody was against me and the world was against me. And you know what? That's not the truth. That's not the case. We're here for you. I've now been walking 10 years clean. So if I can do it, you can do it. I have a successful marriage. I have a successful relationship with my daughter. We go on trips. These are all things that you can have too. These are all things that are attainable, just whatever you want. All right? And you can make it be. You can make it so. Don't ever, 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 ever feel like it's just you. There's everyone around you. Family. If it's not your family, then make some family. Any one of us will be here to help you. I really appreciate that you came this morning. Thank you. Come on now. Let's give you a hug. Come on, let's give you a hug.
I just want to give you a hug. I really do. I absolutely love that. And I'm going to start with you right now, and then we're going to go through and kind of piggyback off of this right now, in that you really took it in that conversation, that love, and understanding that, hey, you're not alone, and you're here. What inspired that a little bit more, and have you had those experiences in the past with others?
So when you said that you wanted us to do this video, I couldn't really think of something to of a minute of myself, because it's not about myself. It was about, helping and being with others. And I had a short stint of time that I was very active and online, and I lasted about 2 years. But in that 2 years, I built relationships. I built kind of friends that I wasn't even aware of that I had built. And I live in a small town, live in the same town that I was born and raised in. And so when I go out, when I go to the Walmart, when I go to the Winn-Dixie, I will run into people. And, they see me, they know me, and I will say things and they relate to it. I still get messages all the time, about, hey, what happened? What did it do for you? How did you help? What did you go through? And it's all different for every single one of us, all 5 of us sitting here. Our each individual experiences was different, but we all went through it. Okay, ask me another question.
Well, I'm going to go on to others. Who would like to also say, because of the fact that when you are known, and many of you are, who comes to you, and do they come to you, and what is it that you say? Because I think that there's so many of us out there that would like to know, how do you know that they're struggling, and there are so many struggling, right? There's so many miracles that are out there right now, and how do you be that miracle for someone else? Who would like to say something? Jill.
Yeah, I'd like to say that right now, God's got me driving Uber and Lyft, a rideshare service here in Branson. And Branson, by the way, Mandi, is the meth capital of the United States. And so God keeps having me pick up addicts that are in the recovery houses here. And as they get in the car and I know where they're going, what house they're going to, I know they're in recovery. And so I start a conversation with them. I say, oh, are you part of the core program? Or are they standing in the door? And they go, yeah. And I go, I said, that's fabulous. How long do you have? And they'll tell me, oh, I got 3 months, 2 months, 8 months. And I said, wow, I'm celebrating 41 years of recovery. And I said, do you want to keep it? And they go, yeah. And I go, do you want to know the secret? And they go, yeah. And I said, get yourself involved with a local church, find God, get a sponsor, and work the steps. And I said, and here's my card. You can call me anytime. And it's just amazing how many of them are like, oh my gosh, I'm so glad you picked me up today.
I love it. I love it. Misty?
Well, for me, I have a lot of people that come up to me and they just want me to wave a magic wand and throw some pixie dust on them and tell them this is how you do it. This is how you overcome, for me, drug addiction. I can't give anyone the answer, but what I can give them is the truth about if they don't find what works for them, where they're headed, because addiction's progressive and it's inevitable. And you'll find yourself doing all the things you said you wouldn't do, because I did them. And for me, it was something very, very tragic that woke me up and got me a spot. But I want to say right there, I think number one to any form of addiction, it is a lack of self-love. There is a hole in us. There is a void in us that we want to fill. And I think self-discovery and self-love is the absolute number one place to start.
I love it. I'm going to share your video right now.
Okay.
Hey, it's Mistie Layne here. I wanted to give you a few words of encouragement about not letting your past rob your future. I'm someone that's been through a lot in my past. I mean, we all have a story to tell. I went from medical school to prison, and it's all behind a cocaine addiction. But you know what? It's what I did on the survival side of adversity, and it's what you can do on the survival side of adversity that's going to set you apart in the world. I believe that we need to step up and speak out and talk about with truth and honesty and realness and rawness and talk about those things that we've done in the past. Talk about those things that really haunt us at night and share with others so that our knowledge and our wisdom can help educate the world so that we can all judge less and mentor more. I think it's important that we step up and speak out so we know we're not alone. You guys, stop letting the past rob your future. It's time. And if you're ready to write your story and get it out, I'm telling you, it is the best therapy you could ever do in the world. Grab a pen and paper and just start writing. Write it all out. Get your emotions, your feelings, your anger, get it all out and let it go. Once you let it go, just strive to be a better person. It's pretty simple. Let your story today change a life tomorrow.
You wrote your story, and this is the thing that I do want to just bring up. You wrote your story when it was a very dark time in your life, correct?
Very dark, yes. I actually wrote my story awaiting a 40-year prison sentence, sitting in a jail cell.
And then you went back and rewrote it, correct?
Yeah, I wrote it in jail. I was full of anger, full of blame. You know, I was pointing my finger at my abuser, at all the people that had ever wronged me, blaming everyone for all the things I did. It wasn't until I got out of prison, I was blessed, got a reduced sentence, got out 2.5 years later, started picking up the pieces to my life, rebuilding relationships. I mean, number one was staying clean. Number one was doing the right thing every day. And because of that, I was able to rebuild trust, rebuild relationships, get back into the medical field. And it wasn't until 8 years later that I actually released it because I feared the judgment. I was ashamed of the person I was. I didn't want anybody to know about that person, especially the domestic abuse aspect of it, of what I allowed myself to go through. You know, I had a grandbaby that was born with a lot of disabilities, and it kind of woke me up to realize I had a voice, and I needed to use it because she didn't have one. She couldn't speak. And so I rewrote the book. Instead of being out of anger and blame, I took accountability for my choices and my actions, and I rewrote it out of forgiveness, you know, because that's a real important part is that you forgive yourself and you forgive others, and it just changed everything for me. And then I released it. So I didn't release it for eight years.
I remember that weekend.
I do too.
I was your roommate when you got that box, and
San Diego, yeah.
Yeah, what an experience that was. And so, you know, one I'll never forget. And in fact, Loren, I'm going to bring you up next because actually Misty and I started getting to know each other because of you, and you really helped Misty, and you've been there for many, many others to help them to get through their journey of overcoming so many different things as a coach and with your show and now as a producer and all the things you're doing. Yet you always go back to the basics, don't you?
That's a great question because to go back to it, it would infer that I had moved away from it.
True.
And so I really just want to say I didn't go back to anything as much as I changed the direction of how I used everything. You see, because the thing is, at this point in my life, everything, every abuse, every dark day, dark night, everything that I used to curse, every person that used to curse me, every tear was that I shed was a syllable to the story I now tell. And so after you forgive, just as Misty said, once I forgave, I had to bless you, every one of you things that did not serve me, because I couldn't have gotten here without you. How bad could you have truly been if you had a hand in leading me to this divine moment right now? So, I just want to say, my journey's different. I never had a sponsor because I couldn't go to those meetings. Why? Because for whatever reason, I know the reason now, but back then, and a lot of people say, oh, you're not trying to get clean. No, that had nothing to do with it. The point is, I wasn't trying to. I didn't want to try. When I said it was enough, I wanted it to be done. I didn't want it stretched out for me personally over, the working of steps and this and that on layaway, if you will, because something always told me, for me, when I found what it was that I was moving towards and seeking, and this was a part of getting me there, that once I got there, immediate healing would be available. Permanent healing would be available. And that's exactly what happened. So my point is to say, my story today, I don't believe it's the result of any mistakes I've made, because I never made any, just like God doesn't make mistakes. It's just the result of what is working, the master plan, keeping this shit interesting. And that's how I look at it, So I'll tell you this, when I laid it out earlier, and I'll move on, when I said, you asked what the addiction was, and I said I used crack cocaine, but that was not my addiction, but I did have one, and only one. And it was the same addiction that laid on top of everything that never served me. And that was anything that came into my life that affected my integrity, my instinct, took me against my intuition, questioned my intellect, my intelligence. All of those words started with I-N. And all of those control levers, dimmer switches, flippers, all of them are internal. They're inside of me. And the only way anything positive or negative can get in there and sit beside me at the control panel is through my invitation. So I was never addicted to crack. I was addicted to abusing the divine gift of invitation. Because every time I invited something into my world, or will today, that does not serve me, I've given it literal permission, as I am the only creature in this world that can speak. I gave it literal permission to do what it was created to do. And it was not to serve me. It was to trick me long enough into serving it. It's the term addiction. You are serving it, whatever it is. So I wasn't addicted to anything other than God's sacred gift of invitation. Once I stopped abusing it, everything in my world changed forever. Period.
I absolutely love it. I have to ask you, because of something you said, all of a sudden the name of your TV production company, your channel,
network.
Your network. There you go. Your
network.
Yeah. The network. It's still new to me. Okay, so the name of your network, you brought that up in what you were talking about. And does this have everything to do with it, or is it just kind of like when you were talking about the trajectory of your life and the trajectory of where you were going and such things, and it made me think of the name of your network.
Yeah. Well, think about it. When you said at the beginning, we talked about the basics. Mm-hmm. So to me, that means take me back to where it all began. If you're a creationist, it's in the beginning. Big Bang Theory, once upon a time. Wherever you start your story, a lot of people think it starts at the womb when I got here. Some people say, oh, when I was 17, I found Jesus or whatever. No, the very beginning is when the sperm took off to meet the egg. The trajectory of the sperm that became me through the egg was the fastest. It hit the mark. The trajectory of it sent it. And that is the greatest odds known to man. Did you know that? Over 400 quadrillion. More numbers than any other odd. So if we, each of us here, all of us on this planet, beat the greatest odds known to man before we could form a thought or speak a word. Nothing in this world is about us beating the odds. What are the odds of you coming out of this and staying clean? It ain't about that. I beat the greatest odds just by getting here. My job now is to create odds for others to reach for, to heal through, and to grow from for thousands of years. That's what that is. So trajectory is how we became people. And we didn't have to earn it. It is a birth right. It is the right to birth.
Perfect. I love it. Now I understand, and it just says so much. Who would like to piggyback off of what Loren just shared? In regards to, there was just so many pearls of wisdom that you shared, Loren. And I would like to see if someone would like to say something and kind of, okay, Jill.
Yeah, thanks, Loren, for that, because I share on this when I speak to, I have a story called Wanted. And so for me, I truly saw a vision of actually God's hands coming in and taking that sperm and taking the egg and forming it inside my mother's womb. And as I saw this vision of this being done, because as a result of recovery, you do start having spiritual awakenings and spiritual experiences. It's a promise. It's a promise of recovery. You will start getting in tune with that. And so I saw God's hands come in and form me inside my mother's womb. And as he did, he said, I am the great I am. I am loved. You are loved and you are wanted. And this big breath came into the room in the brightest white, and he breathed life into me. And it was such a gift for me in my journey of recovery, because when I was raised by a very dysfunctional mother who always told me I was not wanted and despised. And so when God came in and showed me that he wanted me and he created me, that's where my healing really took place, and I could start thriving in my recovery.
Thank you. And in fact, what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to share your video that you submitted here.
Hi, I'm Jill Reynolds with Braveheart Workshop, celebrating 41 years of recovery and realizing that progress rather than perfection has brought me through my journey, working the steps and having a spiritual awakening, and wanting to send and inspire others with hope, health, and healing on their journey of recovery as well.
I love that, progress rather than perfection. Do you want to elaborate on that?
Yeah, I just feel that over the years, like for me, like when Loren was talking even, I had a spiritual awakening that delivered me from my crack cocaine addiction and alcoholism almost immediately. But 2 years into my recovery, a lot of my insanity started coming to the surface. And I noticed it when I hit my little 2-year-old son really hard because he put his toys in the wrong basket. And at that moment, I knew, you know what, I need to start peeling away that onion of all that pain that I have still inside of me from my childhood. You see, I could get rid of the drugs and the alcohol, but I still had a journey to go on. And so for me, I saw that journey took me, and it's still taking me, I'm 41 years in, on this journey of progress. I progress, I learn, I grow. And how I've done this too is to connect the dots of story, like Mistie was saying, story is so important, and see the similarities in other people's lives. And then I see it in myself. So similarities instead of the differences has helped me to progress through and not look at this recovery as perfection. And for me, folks, I did the steps for years. I don't go to 12-step meetings anymore, but I did the steps so that I could work the steps to unpeel that onion and look at my resentments, my fears, my sexual conduct, look at the things that I did in life that I needed to clean my house and get better. So that's kind of how I've progressed over the years. And I keep looking at similarities in other lives instead of the differences. And when I do that, my transformation continues to grow.
Thank you so very much. I'm seeing the nods, and I want to, before I go on, I want to see if there's anybody that wants to add to. Okay, Misty, yes.
I do. I mean, I feel like we are always a work in progress. And I go back to what I said earlier about it being about self-love. I mean, who can beat us up worse than we can, right? I was my biggest critic. I just beat myself up for everything I did, every pain I caused everyone. And I think we need to slow down and give ourselves a break. It's okay not to be perfect. It's okay to make mistakes as long as we're learning. I call them therapeutic mistakes. As long as we're learning from them and we're growing from them. And I believe, everything we go through is to give back knowledge. And I think Loren taught me early on in this journey, once you've gone through something, you become an authority on it, right? So I think it's important to realize that even though it was a dark time, once we're on that survival side of it, we have a job to fill. God's put us, and my belief is that God has put us, we're on his journey now. And he brought us through those things and gave us that knowledge and wisdom so that we could help ease suffering. Someone else might not have to go through what we went through. So that's kind of my take on that whole thing right there is the self-love and then give back.
And it's two things that you just said I want to highlight. Number one is that you said something about, slowing down. And you've done that a lot recently because of circumstances. And you actually sent in one additional video that is really timely right now. I would like to share that and piggyback off of it.
Hey guys, it's Mistie Layne. I just want to give you a little bit of encouraging words to let you know the storm will always pass. It doesn't feel like it when we're in the middle of the storm, but the storm does pass. The sun will come out again. And I'm referencing the tornadoes and all the destruction and all that all the states have had to go through recently with the bad weather. It is feels like the end of the world. I've been there. I've had a tree fall through the house while we were in it with my daughter 7 months pregnant. We've had plant explosions. We've had all kinds of things happen all within a few months of my grandbaby dying, and it was horrific. But you know what? It'll pass. Those things that you are yearning, those things that you are mourning over, those are material things. So it's hard for someone on the outside looking in to try to tell you how to feel, right? All I can share with you is what I went through. And I can tell you that allow yourself the time to grieve, because those are possessions. You've worked your whole life to earn them. But at the same time, count your blessings, because they are only possessions. The good news is you can rebuild, and the good news is you have your family to rebuild with. So count those blessings, and my heart goes out to all of you. You're all in my prayers every day. If I could get out there and help you guys from the ground up, I would do it. But I'm here full time with my mom, taking care of her and everything else. But just take it one day at a time, guys, and rebuild.
So you talk about it, and I remember I actually looked for it, but I didn't find the one picture. But you guys had just been on the couch. The tree comes in, and that is after I remember countless nights that I was up checking in on you because you're locked into a hospital and everything is going on. And I'm thinking, how can you go through anything more? And you just said it right there that the storm will end and the sun will come out. And sometimes we do have to take a bit of a break, and you have done that, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I've had to. We tend to take on so much, and some people might say we fill our plates up so we don't have to look at ourselves. We're so busy taking care of others, we don't have to look at our defects, our faults. And then some people just say that's just their nature. I mean, it could be probably a little bit of both for me. Like I mentioned earlier, you know, food addiction is a big deal. You know, the cocaine is not a problem for me, but food is, and it's around me every day. And, you know, we're all a work in progress, like I said, but going back to what you were saying about the storm will pass, the way I look at it is, if something's happening to you, first of all, you can't change it. It's happening, right? It's already happening. So you just have to have faith and know that you'll get through it, and then just go back and look at the silver linings, learn what you can from it, and again, give back to others your knowledge, because I'm sure a lot of us on here, I know Mandy's down in Florida. I know a lot of us have gone through a lot of bad weather. Tornadoes, ice storms, you know, plant explosions. You know, it's life. We all have stuff, every one of us. So just, you know, look for the sun rays that are coming through the clouds and focus on that.
And that also is metaphoric. When you think of weather, it is metaphoric to life. Yeah. And that's what anybody listening throughout the world and saying, they're talking about the U.S. Yes, however, we're talking about something bigger when you take your metaphoric ears and you put them on, because that really does translate just about everything. We have some kind of feedback issue going on right now. I do want to, I see you, Mandi, let's go to you, and then I'm going to go to Caroline after that.
Yeah, I just want to follow up on that too, that, you know, all through the recovery, the surviving, whatever process that you're in, earlier in the late days. I mean, I'm 10 years in, and it's easier now. It's easier because I've trained myself to learn to live in gratitude. But in the beginning, when the disasters would happen and things would happen, and, you know, something what I think is small now would have been huge back then. And I would have to compare it to my no more moment, to that moment that was the moment that I completely quit doing, you know, meth. So it's easy to say, depending on where you are in your journey. It's even for me, it's easy to say, you know, look for the light, look for this and all that. And sometimes it's just not look for the light, but do you want to go back to your no more? And is that the worst? I don't ever want to do that. So, and as I've gone through the journey, the living in the gratitude has made it so much easier. I did go through, Ian, my job, believe it or not, I am an essential worker, but I'm in wastewater. Right. And don't nobody want wastewater to back up into their house.
Right.
So when we had the hurricanes happen, I was not home. I was out at my job. I slept at a water plant, in the bathroom floor of a water plant. When my parents were here, we lost an alpaca, the storm, you know, but it all worked. It all worked out. And it was easier because of my journey of being grateful. And that's all I have to say.
You know, and I want a really exclamation point there and highlight the being grateful in the moment that someone say, some might even say, yeah, you want me to be grateful in the middle of this. And you're saying, yes, be grateful in the middle of that, correct?
Yes, I am absolutely. But it takes practice. All right. I mean, you didn't, I didn't hit the meth one time and became an addict. I mean, I want to say that was that first hit, but it was that first thought of gratitude that started the whole journey of gratitude. I wasn't quite married at the time that I'm sorry, when Ian happened, I was almost married. So I was living in a gratitude that he had joined our farm, you know, that he was able to help. So all these pieces had come together to be grateful for it. The fact that I had a job in the wastewater, because, you know, made the extra money there to fix the stuff that got broken. So you can find the things. It takes practice.
Thank you. And that, I think, is something that I think just a lot of us would say is practice is a key. And so thank you for that. I want to recognize something that Helene had said a while ago here. And she said, I came to this show to seek me. And I hear God walking through the show. Amen. In the blessings of each one of you.
Oh,
And,
beautiful.
I want to highlight that. And thank you, Helene, for being here. And thank you for all you do as an ambassador and welcoming people. It truly is a blessing to us that you are here. Speaking of an ambassador, we have our senior ambassador for the nonprofit that this show does highlight a lot, Senior Ambassador Caroline Brown. And you also are here to share your pearls of wisdom. I'm going to start with your video because it makes a lot of sense because you're coming from it also in your role that you've really taken on as an ambassador, helping those that are experiencing some pain.
Hi, my name is Caroline Brown, and I come with a heartfelt message. If you are battling any type of addiction, it doesn't matter what addiction it is. Addiction is addiction. How can we help you in your recovery? And remind you that we are often here and willing to be your support buddy. Remind them that they are not alone and that they are valued. You matter. You can do this, and you are not alone because we are here to support you in your journey.
And yes, I love the mug. Tour of Love show coming soon to a network near you, this one in particular. You mentioned it in there, and so I had to just kind of bring it out there. Those of us that work within our program, you use the word buddy, and that's one of the things that we finally use for our community. And many that find themselves in, and it was brought up by Jill, disease, that sometimes it goes cattywampus in our bodies, but you're here because of the fact that you too have overcome and have become a survivor, or whatever you choose to say in regards to what it is that at one point in time you were looking for, as you said, love in all the wrong places. And so tell us a little bit about that.
Well, I mean, to start off, I came from a troubled childhood. I came from being abused from my father. So with that, I took that into my life of looking for someone of me. After I came out of the Children's Aid Society, I had nowhere to go. So I spent a lot of my time in the pubs, and I would drink, till I was almost intoxicated, like beyond. And I would just find anybody that would just, give me that affection, and I would go home with them. And that's because I felt like I was going to find that love. And it took me many years. I think it was up until I was about 43 when I discovered I needed to get help. And this is where I say support buddy, because I didn't have anybody. So I had to go to a program, release all that luggage that I was carrying that I didn't know what to do with. So I went to these programs, and I met people that became my buddies, that became my friends, and became understanding what I went through, because a lot of us have similar stories in this program. And I spent 4.5 years going through this program in order to release and heal myself through the trouble I was going through with being, from a young age of not knowing what love is, and not knowing that, I didn't have that love at home. I didn't have it in my foster home. I had to find it on my own. And that's where I had to do all the work on myself. So that's why I put it in there that, value yourself and that you matter. And I have done a lot of growing, a lot of work on myself to love myself. And I finally put my story out in a chapter. I'm a co-author in a book. And my story is, it's my life treading water until I learned to swim.
Nice. And so now you're happy, and you've got a wonderful, happy family, and you've created this legacy now in your writing and your books and such things. We've talked about it before, and yet what you've done is you've transferred a lot of what it is that you wanted in your own life, and you've created it, and now you've created that legacy for generations to come. Some would say that's a pattern disruptor in regards to generational patterns, correct?
Yes, I created a children's book, and I teach my grandkids art because I want them to be able to express themselves and to find their imagination, and just let them go with a paintbrush and paint, and just create whatever comes to mind. And that's what I've been doing. So I have all my, kid paintings here for my first children's book that I did. And I left that legacy for my grandkids to say, you know what, you can overcome anything.
Yes, I love it. Okay, we're going to open it up now. And what I'd love, did I see you raising your hand, Jill?
Yeah, if I could just kind of piggy off of what Carolyn said, and kudos to you, Carolyn, for your vulnerability. I became a sex addict myself with drugs, sleeping around just to get my cocaine for free. But what I love about the support does with chemo is really, especially where beginning stages of recovery for however long you need it, support groups are so very important. And if anybody knows the rich history of AA, if it wasn't for the one alcoholic, Bill W., going to the insane asylum to talk to another alcoholic to hear that other alcoholic story, he would have never recovered. And so he went and found other alcoholics to connect with so he could have support, so he could stay clean for each day. And that's the beautiful history of AA. It's helping one alcoholic at a time, after a time, after a time. And I remember one time leading an Eating Disorders Anonymous meeting and sitting in the room, and no one showed up. And I was going to sit there for only 20 minutes, and God said, stay the whole hour. And a young 20-year-old walked in the room about 45 minutes after the meeting should have started. And he had been in the car, scared to death to come in. And he was contemplating going home and committing suicide that night. And so it was for the fact that he started at a support group. I took him to an intake. He got admitted, and it saved his life. So support groups to me are not just supporting yourself, but it's supporting the other person in that meeting, just like Chemo Buddies has done, to hopefully help that person stay alive.
I love it. I'm actually going to pick someone, and I'm going to put something here. Loren, to be the blessing, one must first see the blessing. You say that all the time. You say it all the time. And I'd love to have you. It was just Jill just kind of brought this up about the meeting and that person sitting there and listening to, and her sitting there listening to that inspiration, and then the other person sitting in their car contemplating. And there was the blessing that was just shared in that story. And you're always on your show, wherever you are on stage. I hear you say this all the time. Love to hear a little bit more.
Well, the reason I say that is because it's very hard for many of us to understand that we are the blessing. We pray for two things, faith and blessings. And we already have them both. Faith is not a thing. That's why it's the only thing in the Bible you cannot pray for, because if God gives it to you, it's not faith. It's proof. It's believing in something with no proof. So faith is not a thing. It's a place. And if I want to really understand a blessing, and I need one, then through gratitude, I look at myself and realize I am a blessing. I am a blessing. Like, for example, Caroline, right here. You didn't see me get up and go anywhere. I went like 1 second because it was right there. But I didn't leave and go rumbling around the house. This was in reach. This. And Caroline, do you remember when I purchased this from you? I do. And I remember without her even saying, I knew Caroline was inside of a space. She needed someone to reach in. And lo and behold, I thought I was helping her. And then this found its way into my life, and it's instantly began helping me. Because when I looked, I said, oh, it sure is pretty. Look at all those different colors. God showed it to me that when you had all of these colors, these shades of the paint spectrum, each one individually in your life, and it looked anything but pretty. That's because it was in the frame. And when you came out of the frame, you were able to turn back and look at everything that it really become, i.e. the big picture. So when you combine everything you've ever lived, everything you've ever gone through, made it through, because you didn't listen to wall talk, get over it. Find a way around it. Oh, I don't know if you'll dig from underneath that one. There's a reason God provides us with windows and doors of opportunity, because he knows that if we realize that faith is a place and we're always within it, if we realize that the blessing is us and we're always us, then all we have to do is find the courage to take those two things and peek in his window, take the hand of what you believe to be greater, walk through that door, because you must go in it in order to get through it. And you have to get through it in order to get to it. And getting to it is what we're doing. We're now doing our kingdom work. Our divine missions are being fulfilled moment by moment. Addicts, we know. I remember when I was in a shelter and someone had left the book, the purpose-filled life, Wayne Walker. And I remember I looked at it and at first I was like, life. I'm trying to figure out how to live a purpose-filled moment. Because I didn't know if I wanted to or could live from one moment to the next. But once I started embracing each divine moment, calling it a sacred moment, I then found a divine minute, a divine hour, a divine day, week, month, decade, and I'm 12 in. I'll tell you what, for 5 minutes of what I have found today, I would go back and gladly live every pain I've ever lived over 1,000 times if I knew 5 minutes of this was waiting on the other side. Mm-hmm. That's how wonderful. All of that pain, all of these colors separately, that's how wonderful when you blend them. These colors ran where they needed to. Caroline was the vessel in which they poured out of. I am holding the result of what it was all about for me. So that's what I have to say about it. And in conclusion, I just want to say this. Remember this. Pain, it's mandatory. They're not called growing tickles. But it is the suffering which is optional. That's a choice. Don't forget that.
Oh, beautiful. Beautiful. I'm going to open this up to, okay, Caroline.
I just want to say thank you, Loren. Appreciate you. And I remember how you said way back, what is the legacy that you're going to leave behind when you finally leave this earth? And I always remembered that. And I was not a writer. I was not. That was my whole intentions of writing books or anything like that. I had a spiritual call with somebody that not write out, and I sat down for 25 days straight and put my pain into words, and I created a poem book. And it's pictures of my kids, it's pictures of my grandkids, it's pictures of me, the transition of what I've gone through. And from there, that's when I created. So this is the poem book that I created, pain and anger and everything that I went through. And it's called The Freedom of Dreams, the poems that freed a broken spirit. And from there, I had created all these paintings here. And I didn't know what I was doing with them. I just created them. They were just paintings. I just started randomly painting because I wanted to get back into my creative side and show my grandkids what you use your imagination. And then I created this book for my grandkids, and it's called Harriet the Turtle in the Woods. And basically what it is telling children that through change, we lose a tooth, it grows back. We cut our hair, it grows again. So it's all about change. And this turtle was going through the forest trying to find a shell that was missing, but it wasn't actually missing. It was just a layer of her skin that was shedding. And she would get a new piece of skin come back on her shell. So I want to thank you, Loren, for, believing in me and believing in my creative art. I thank you so much.
I love it. And, what I'm hearing here, and I want to say this, and then we have only a few more moments. And so I want to go around and have everybody kind of give a final thought. And that is, I'm hearing also a resounding stamp of approval to community, the whole idea of community, a community of individuals here on this earth, community of a heavenly community. And it has been proven, they call them blue zones, look it up, that community is one of the healing aspects that we have on this world, not by accident, on purpose. I believe in a purpose-driven life. So with that, what I'd like to do is be able to go around and have you have your last moment of a pearl of wisdom that you'd like to leave with everyone. Because yes, Patty, thank you. Community is necessary. And today you have all created community in this hour-long show. And I want to say thank you for it, because I know that there are so many that are going to be touched as I am. And I have been taking notes. And please, if you haven't taken notes, I'm going to ask you, I'm going to implore you to watch this again. Watch it with a piece of paper and a pen and write down the pearls of wisdom that you hear, because I have been writing down continually. I have 3 pages of notes already. So I'm going to go around and Misty, would you like to start?
Sure. As kids, we have confidence. We have a lot of confidence. We don't have any worries in the world because we haven't seen any of the, for the most part, the ugly in the world. And when we're little bitty, somewhere along the way we lose it. And like I said before, I think that we beat ourselves up. We look inward. We like to look at our faults. And I think self-esteem is important. I hadn't mentioned that yet, but I think it's really important that we feed into our self-esteem, that we feed into lifting others up, because I feel like when we lend a hand to someone else that's going through a rough time, it makes, for me personally, it makes me feel valuable. It makes me feel like all that crap that I went through, there's a reward at the end of it, and that's to help others. And so if you're out there in a dark space right now and you feel like there is no hope, there's no light at the end of the tunnel, as we're all living proof sitting here, we've been exactly where you are. And we're here to tell you that there is. You got to find what works for you. I think every one of us here on the panel, something different got us away from it. And you just got to find what works. But I think the one common thing is that we need to look in, and we need to forgive, and we need to figure out what that void is we're trying to what it is we're trying to stuff down with little Debbie cakes or cigarettes or drugs or gambling or sex or whatever it is, to make it go away. We need to, instead of trying to stuff it down, we need to discover it and heal and grow through it. And so my final word of wisdom for you is to start that self journey. Start writing. I think writing it, like I said, is the therapy. Start writing it out. You'll discover yourself. You'll learn yourself through writing. Things came out when I started writing my story in a rehab. Things that had happened to me as a little girl, I didn't even know that it happened. They came out 30 years later because the writing pulled it out of me. It's healing. It's therapeutic. So feed into your self-esteem. Like I run those tween esteem camps for those little 9 to 12-year-old girls, because I think building us up and making us recognize our value and our worth is equally as important.
Beautiful. 30 seconds. I'm going to go around the horn. Jill, 30 seconds.
Oh, gosh. I'd say we all need community. Even Jesus needed 12 disciples. He did not do life alone, and he was almighty. So if you think you can do life alone, look towards Jesus. He needed community. And like Misty said, connect the dots of your story, the good, the bad, and the ugly, because they'll show you patterns. And once you see the patterns, that's when you can start breaking them and find true healing.
I love it. Mandi?
Find the community within yourself first. Like Misty says, you have to know and love yourself. All the things that you think are wrong or think is bad or think are not, those are the things that make you and love you. And once you do love yourself, then people will come out of nowhere and surround you that you never knew existed, but now you have your community.
I love it. I love it. Caroline?
Mine is conquer your own fears, dream big, dream small, and never give up, because I didn't give up. And I conquered, even though I sabotaged myself many times throughout, I managed to get through it.
I love it. I love it. Loren?
In a nutshell, I would say this again to reiterate: make a commitment that everything that does not serve you must go. Because if you do not, it is just a matter of time before all those things have tricked you into serving them. Remember that miracles and parables were always proved through the lowliest, through the invisible, through the ones that the world had counted out and muted. Nonetheless, it is their stories that remain thousands of years later. And remember this in conclusion: do not put an ED on anything that is getting you and has gotten you to where you are and will get you to where you're going. ING, we are human beings, not human duns. ING means that you are in the process. So if you think you have recovered, think again. You are recovering yourself every day. You're not hiding under the blankets of shame anymore. You're not hiding behind fear anymore. You are shameless. You are blameless. You are fearless. So now snuggle under those covers, because they are purposeful and they are there for healing. So remember, ING, stay in the process. Don't ever think it's over, because when it's over, you will know, because you will have taken your last breath. Until then, stay in the game. Stay in the game and stay encouraged.
I love it. Upon that, I think we have really wrapped this show, because how beautiful was that with a bow that you wrapped it up, Dr. Loren Harris. And I want to say thank you to every one of our panelists for being so brave and bold and really sharing your heart and your souls, because I know that there are going to be so many of you out there that needed exactly what was said today. Please, please, please share this out to anybody that you know right now absolutely could listen to it and gain something from it and put into practice one thing, and then add another and add another. And upon that, you'll be taking those baby steps to the life that is really yours. We are human beings. I love that. I love it. And you know what? We love each one of you for being here. Be here next week, because we will be celebrating Easter throughout the world with people from all over the world coming together to show how we are more alike than we are apart.
I see you, Misty.
Bye-bye,
And thank you,
everyone.
Tamara. Thank you, Tamara.
Thank you.
Thanks, Tara.